Well, guys, our next topic to discuss is the next module, that is RSA. Okay, so this RSA, as I was always saying in the class, it is named after three people who literally worked on this cryptographic algorithm. So in the year 1977, three people by name Rivest, Shamir and Edelman, they proposed a scheme of using public key for encrypting messages and a corresponding private key for decryption. Okay, so this scheme is commonly referred as RSA. So the concept is very much simple, where we'll be generating two different keys, that is public key and private key. So it is very much sure that here we are making use of what? Public key cryptography. Okay, I mean to say here if you remember, we had discussed about two types of cryptographic methods. One is secret key, the other one is public key cryptography. So in this public key cryptography concept, we'll have two keys to generate. We'll have a public key and a private key. Public key is used for encryption and private key is used for decryption. Okay, so that method they have used, I mean to say, this Rivest, Shamir and Adelson, and they have proposed this RSA. So this RSA operation, actually it consists of three steps. Okay, so the three steps are like as follows. So the first step in RSA operation is to generate this public key and private key. Okay, so how to generate this public key and private key? It is we have to perform a few things. So for that, the very first thing is we need to consider two large prime numbers. Okay, so why large prime numbers, and why, what's the importance of prime numbers? We have discussed so many things with respect to this when I was discussing about mathematical background that is required for cryptographic algorithms. Okay, so there I had highlighted the importance of prime numbers, why prime numbers are considered, what are its features, all these concepts. Okay, so now in RSA they have made use of two large prime numbers, and I'll be multiplying this P and Q, and that product is stored in N. Okay, and then we'll compute the totient Euler's totient function. Phi of n is equal to P minus 1 into Q minus 1. So you can ask me, ma'am, in the while explaining us the concept of totient, you said like the totient of, say for example, Z6 star, if I have, so the set contains two elements. Why two elements? Relatively prime. So the numbers which are relatively prime to the 6. So only 1 and 5 we have. Okay, so totient function is number of elements in this set. So number of elements is 2. Okay, so if you observe, I have written the totient value for 5 and 7. Okay, so for 5 it is 4. Okay, and for 7 it is 6. So by this we can conclude that for any prime numbers, their totient value, Euler totient function value, will be one number less than the prime number. So like we don't know what could be the product, because we are considering two large prime numbers. So for them resulting with such a set and then counting the numbers, so instead of doing all those steps, we can just come to a conclusion that for any prime numbers, their totient function value will be one number less than this. Okay, so that's the reason why we'll write P minus 1 into Q minus 1. So that product is equal to this. Okay, so next we have to find the value of E in such a way that when I take GCD of that number and this totient value, that should be equal to 1. That is nothing but I need to find a number which is relatively prime to this phi of n. Okay, so you can start from some small numbers. You can just start your assumptions from small number. So if that number is relatively prime to the phi of n value, so then you can just come or assume that that will be the value of E. Okay, so similarly we need to find the value of D. So how to find the value of D is nothing but D will be the inverse of E, okay, for mod phi of n. Okay, so you need to find the value of D, I mean to say the inverse value of E, mod phi of n. So inverse is nothing but their product mod phi of n should be equal to 1. Okay, so the steps are very much simple. You will be considering two large prime numbers, find the product of them, store in n, and then p minus 1 into q minus 1, store that in phi of n, and then find a number which is relatively prime to this phi of n and assume that to be E, and then find its inverse mod phi n, and that will become D. So thereby you will get the public key and private key. So in the public key is E comma n and private key is D comma n. Okay, so once after you have done all these steps, the next step is to move on to encryption. Okay, so encryption is what? M raised to E mod n. So that on performing this, I'll get my ciphertext. So to get back my message, I'll go with ciphertext, raise it to the power of D, that is private key, mod n. Okay, so what is this suffix I mean here is, so the given message will be divided into blocks. Okay, so here I represents the individual blocks. Fine. So in meantime you need to remember two important things. First thing is the message whatever we are working with, so that value should be always less than n. So that is one of the restriction when it comes to RSA. It is always good if you have the value of m less than the value of n. Okay, and one more thing is the number of bits used to represent n is referred to as key size. Okay, so usually they'll ask you what will be the size of key, or how do you compute the size of key. So size of key size is log n to base 2. How to compute log n to base 2? Log n to base 10 divided by log 2 to base 10. So I have not written here, so just make a note of it. How to compute log n to base 2? Log n to base 10 divided by log 2 to base 10. So in your calculators you have base 10 directly if you use log. Okay, if you are using ln, that is natural log. So whenever you are asked to find the size of key, so then you will perform log n to base 2. Okay, so what is its importance? We'll see that with an example. So this is the RSA algorithm. So to make it very simple, so these are the 3 steps we perform, and this is all about the RSA algorithm. So how exactly this works, we'll see that with an example. Say suppose if you have been provided with a message like 00111011, if this is the message provided to you. So in my example, I'll just I'll not go with any large prime numbers. I'll go with a very simple prime numbers. So the prime numbers that I'll consider here is 3 and 11. Okay, so 3 into 11, 33. So their product, so p times q will give you 33. So that is stored in n. And next we have what? Phi of n. So in this phi of n, as I already stated, p minus 1 into q minus 1, 3 minus 1 is 2, 11 minus 1 is 10. So 2 times 10 is 20. Okay, so next I need to find a relatively prime number to this 20, so that I'll get, I mean to say that GCD will result with 1. So if I take 2, yes, it doesn't work. So next I'll go with 3. So 3 and 20, yes, of course they are relatively prime. Their GCD is 1. Okay, so I'll take E is equal to 3. Okay, see, you can write it 5 as well, 7 as well. Okay, it is up to you, but since I already stated, we'll go with smallest numbers. So I got 3 before 2, 7, so I've retained 3. Okay, so next the inverse. So 3 inverse mod 10, the inverse of 3. So inverse of 3, in a sense, I should multiply a number with 3 in such a way that on taking mod phi of n, that is 20, I should get 1. Okay, so 3 2s are 6, it will not work. 3 3s are 9, it will not work. 3 4s are 12, even that will not work. 3 5s are 15, no. 3 6s are 18, 3 7s are 21. 21 mod 20 is 1. Okay, so the inverse of 3 is 7. Okay, so D is equal to 7. So after this I need to compute key size. So key size is n. N value is what? 33. So log 33 to base 10 divided by log 2 to base 10. So this is ceiling and flooring. If you remember in C, while teaching you C, they would have taught you the concept of ceiling and flooring. So I have to round it up to the larger number. That is what it means. Okay. So I'll get 5.044. Since I'm asked to make it a larger number, if you get anything 0.1 to whatever it is, we'll round it off to 6. Okay. So since the size of key is 6, I need to divide the message into blocks where each block is of size 6. Okay. So I have how many bits here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this becomes one block. Okay, and next I have 2 bits here. So for that I'll just pad zeros. Okay, so you need to pad them in front of this actual data value. Okay, so what is the importance of padding? All those things I'll tell you in future. Okay, so now instead of working with this binary data, I'll get its equivalent decimal value. How to get decimal value? It is, you guys know already. So 2 to the power of 0, 1, 2, 3 as such. So wherever ones are there, you write their corresponding values, add them, you will get the decimal value. So the decimal values we have got is 14 and 3. So next, performing the encryption, that is to get the ciphertext. 14 raised to 3 mod 33. Okay, so the answer is 5. So to decrypt, 5 raised to D. What is D value? 7. So 7 mod 33. So you will get this number. So the answer is 14. So this is how the RSA algorithm that I explained actually works with bits. Okay, so once you have understood about the RSA operations, so now let me one more block we have, is it? That is block 2. Block 2 is 3. 3 raised to 3 mod 33, you will get 27. 27 raised to 7 mod 33, you will get 3. So you can just perform these mod operations in your calculator. Directly you will get the answer. Okay, so next is why does this, now we'll have a question. Why does this RSA work? So I see here, we'll definitely have a question. See, when it comes to decryption, see, I'm raising it to D mod n. So how is that possible that I'll get back my message? So it was encrypted by raising the message by the power of E, and this E and D are two different numbers that we actually result with in most of the cases. Okay, so then how exactly it will manage to get back our message? Okay, in simple words, let me just explain you. So this is not there in your textbook. Okay, and please don't write this answer in your exam as well. Okay, it is only to make you guys very much comfortable. I'll just take this as an example, and then I'll teach you the actual content that is present in your textbook. Okay, so given so you know about the public key and private key, how will result with this? So we also know n is equal to p into q and e into d is equal to 1. That is, I'll be finding the inverse of e mod phi of n, which will be equal to 1. Okay, see here, if I raise this x to the power of, if I am raising this x by e into d with mod phi of n, that content is still there. Okay, so this is very much equal to what? X raised to 1. E into d is what? The product is actually equal to 1 on mod phi of n. Okay, remember that. Okay, so mod n I'll just take now. I'll tell you how it works. So when it comes to the encryption, so C is equal to m to the power of e mod n is what we have, and decryption C raised to d mod n. See, I'll substitute for C. See what we have? M to the power of e. Okay, all raised to d mod n. I've just substituted for C, guys, here. Okay, so see, whatever I have, I've next what I have? E into d. E into d is what? 1. Okay, see, m mod n. if you remember, I had said the value of m should be always less than n. If m value is less than n, then m mod n, the answer will be what? M. So this is how RSA work, or why does RSA work. This is how they have designed the algorithm, so that we'll get back our message. Okay. So now I'll just explain you the content of your textbook. Okay, so what exactly has been the same concept, they have explained it, but in a different way they have portrayed it. So it is always good to know each and every topic. So let me just explain this as well. Okay, as we all know, the message, the given message will be divided into blocks. So I'll just consider some ith message block, and we'll name it as mi. Next we'll consider its corresponding ciphertext ci. Okay, so decrypting the message ci raised to m mod n. Okay, so substituting for ci, if I substitute, it is m I to the power of e mod n all raised to d mod n. Okay, so e into d, see mod n, whenever you apply it will work. So I had explained you that before only. So mod operation, any times I can apply, so that more number of times you apply, lesser the value you will result with. So if you are planning to apply the mod at the end, so you will work with large numbers. That's the only difference. So I'll just we'll just neglect this mod n. So on neglecting, it will not make any difference. So e into d, so e into d is 1. So 1 plus k into phi of n. Okay, so k is some integral number. That's it. Okay, see here I have written d into e mod phi of n. Okay, so which is equal to 1. So 1 plus k into phi of n, I can just write. So k could be any integral number, it could be 1 as well. Okay, so we next will try to show that this message to the power of 1 plus k into phi n mod p is equal to mi. Okay, so on taking mod p, so here see two cases we'll consider. So this before that, see mi to the power of 1 into m to the power. So this exponent addition I'll just remove. So on removing the addition, what it happens, mi raised to 1 into mi raised to k into phi of n mod p. Okay, see if I take individually the GCD, the two cases are, if I take the GCD of mi and p, and if it is equal to 1, okay, if these two GCD is equal to 1, then obviously these two in GCD also equal to 1. Okay, so we have done couple of problems. If you just cross check with your notes, we have done so many problems which easily proves if these two GCD is equal to 1, then these two GCD also will be equal to 1. So in that case I can simply write, see here again, mi raised to k into q. See this phi of n I've just substituted for phi of n, q minus 1 into p minus 1. Okay, mod p is equal to 1. So 1 in a sense nothing but GCD of mi comma p, which is equal to what, mi mod p. Okay, so these two are equal. This means what, mi raised to 1 plus k into phi n mod p is equal to mi mod p. Okay, see other cases, mi this m suffix I comma p, GCD of these two, it could be equal to 1, or else it could be a number other than 1. I meant to say some number greater than 1. So this implies what, then these two mi to the power of 1 plus k into phi of n. So this mod p will be equal to 0. Okay, so if it's equal to 0, then it can be equated in this format. Okay, so therefore in similar manner, if I take for mod p, this holds good even for mod q. Okay, so these two if I am equating, okay, so then I'll get this. So from equation 1 I'll get this. Okay, mi plus I'll take some c1 into p, so some integer. Okay, so next for equation 2 I'll just add the message with c2 into q. So equating the RHS, so if I take see the LHS are same, so I'll equate the RHS part. So on equating MI will get cancelled. I'll get what? C1P is equal to C2Q. Okay, so since P and Q are prime, it follows that C1 should have Q as factor, isn't it? So if they are prime, then it should be a factor of it. That is obvious. So if you remember, we'll take prime factors, isn't it? So there comes C3Q into P. Okay, so substituting for C1P in equation 3, I'll get this value. So thereby I'll get my message back. Okay, this is a very long procedure to prove that yes, decryption will result with the actual message, how actually it will result with. Okay, so for you guys, even this is more than enough to understand how actually we'll get back our message. Okay, so once after understanding the concept of RSA and its operation and how exactly or why exactly the RSA works, so next obvious question what I'll have is to think about its performance. So as you all know, when it comes to this RSA, we have lot of things where I'll be performing multiplication followed by addition, isn't it? So always it is like we have lot of multiplications to perform. So multiplications followed by, so repeated multiplications we have both in encryption and decryption. Repeated multiplication of some b bit number. So these multiplications usually increases what? The complexity. Okay, so the encryption, and also we all know encryption keys usually will have small, because I'll be considering what? Smaller numbers, that has to be a co-prime value with phi of n. Okay, so since the encryption key will be smaller, its time complexity is big O of b square. And decryption, so here when it comes to decryption, so this what the decryption key, it will be in the order of n value. So usually the value of D is same order as n. So I mean to say it will be a larger number. Okay, so that's the reason why the decryption will be big O of n into b square, because the value of D will be in the order of n. Okay, so say for example if your key size, if it is some hundreds. Okay, so given that the value of n is hundreds of digits long, so then you can't even imagine what amount of time it could consume. So for that we have a solution where we can speed up the RSA. Okay, so for that we'll make use of square and multiply. Okay, so what is the square and multiply is? It works something like this. Say for example, if decryption key is 57. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll have its equivalent binary representation. So this is our binary representation. So we'll not directly go and compute c to the power of 57. We'll split this 57 in such a way that we'll work with smaller numbers. Okay, so smaller numbers, and then I'll get back. So for that what we'll do, we'll go with squaring. Okay, see 1, no? 1 for this, if I am applying the square, so c to the power of 2, c to the multiples of 2. Okay, so that is nothing but squaring. So whatever the answer I get here, square of that, I'll get c to the power of 4. So this value square, c to the power of 8. This value square, c to the power of 16. This value square, c to the power of 32. So I'll be multiplying only those. So instead of performing c raised to 57 times, I'll just perform this c raised to 8 into c raised to 16, that is squaring. That's it. Okay, and that's square. So less a number of multiplications will actually happen, so thereby speeding up the RSA. Okay, so this is square and multiply. Okay, so we have an example here. See here, say for example, if I've considered the P and Q as 17 and 11, so then I'll be resulting with the value of n as 187. Next, phi of n is P minus 1 into Q minus 1, 16 into 10, 160. So next, the value of E, so I'll start again 1 2 3 as such. If I can, sorry, 2 3 4 5 6 7 as such, so I'll get 7, which is a relatively prime number with 160, thereby their GCD is equal to 1. Okay, so E is equal to 7. Next, the inverse of 7 mod 160 is 23. Okay, so the key, public key and private key that I'll be getting is 7, 187, 23 and 187. See, 88 raised to the power of 7. You can just try this in your calculator. You will not get the whole number there, but instead you will get a number with exponent value. So then it is really difficult to find the mod. Okay, so for here I'll go with the square and multiply concept. Okay, 88 raised to 1, 2, 4. See, 4 plus 2 is 6, 6 plus 1 is 7. Okay, see, 88 is 88. 88 square is 88 square mod 187. So thereby I'll get a smaller number, 77. So this is how I'll make the computation very simple and also speed up the RSA. Okay, so I'll get the answer as 11. See, even the computation is not that difficult when I split them up. Okay, next 11 to the power of 23, 1, 2, 4. And next 8. Next I was supposed to consider what, 16. So instead of writing 16, I can write 8 once again, isn't it? Even that works. So this I'll be getting back my message 88. Okay, so next is, once after understanding the concept of the square, multiply, all this, so definitely there are a lot of practical issues that we have to look into when it comes to RSA. Okay, so first thing is here practical issues. So first is generating prime. Okay, so how to generate a prime? See, I am like, we are considering a number. We have, the very first thing is we need to consider what? Two large prime numbers. So how do I check a large number is prime or not? Okay, so for that, as you all know, we have already worked with so many like examples, algorithms in your C itself. Okay, so usually we'll go with the square root of P, isn't it? So that that procedure, see, when you are aware of that square root of P, any number, if it is a factor within square root of P, then definitely that cannot be a prime number, isn't it? So that method you can just make use of to check a number is prime or not, and which will also be known to the attacker. Okay, so that generating prime itself is one of the loophole of RSA. Okay, so we have Miller-Rabin algorithm. Okay, I have actually already explained, like I've actually explained Miller-Rabin algorithm in my Google site. You can just check for that if you are interested actually. So that algorithm is meant for what, generating the prime numbers, to check whether a given number is prime or not in a very simple terms, in very simple steps. Okay, so next, that is one of the flaw when it comes to RSA, and we have the side channel and other attacks. Okay, so this side channel attack or other attacks, so the for which attacks this RSA algorithm is prone to. Okay, so first thing is modulus factorization. Okay, so you know n is equal to we are taking what, modular n. Okay, mod n is what I'm computing. Fine, so mod n value is what it is, n is equal to p into q. So the factors for n is p and q. Okay, so if attacker managed to find the factors of n, so then the very first thing that was required he'll get back. Okay, so we have Pollard row algorithm, which is actually explained in advanced algorithm. So again, this algorithm, what it is, how exactly it works, with an example you can find in my Google site. advanced algorithm, you just go to forms and docs. So in that forms and docs you can find advanced algorithm folder. Within that, module 345, so in that what file you can find this Polard row. Okay, so nothing but I'll just tell you what exactly happens. I will be considering two numbers randomly, some two numbers we will be considering, and will be